Darth Bane's rule of two represented a revolutionary philosophy in the Sith Order, addressing the fundamental weaknesses that had plagued the Sith for millennia. Prior to Bane, the Sith followed a more collective approach, with countless Sith vying for power, which often resulted in infighting and self-destruction. This chaotic environment hindered the Sith from achieving their ultimate goal, the destruction of the Jedi and the dominance of the dark side over the galaxy. Bane, through his brilliance and understanding of the dark side, realized that the very structure of the Sith was flawed. His solution, the Rule of Two, became the cornerstone of the Sith's resurgence and eventual domination. The Rule of Two dictated that there could only be two Sith at any given time, a master and an apprentice. The master embodied power and the wisdom to wield it, while the apprentice sought to surpass the master, driven by ambition and the promise of supremacy. This dynamic created a cycle of perpetual evolution, ensuring that the Sith would grow stronger with each generation. Unlike the infighting and fragmentation of the previous Sith orders, the Rule of Two channeled the dark side's chaotic nature into a focused, efficient system. Bane's insights stemmed from his deep study of Sith history, particularly the failures of past Sith empires. The Brotherhood of Darkness, under Lord Khan, was the final catalyst that pushed Bane to reform the Sith. The Brotherhood sought equality among its members, attempting to suppress individual ambition in favor of collective strength. However, Bane saw this as antithetical to the dark side's core tenets, which thrived on conflict, passion, and the survival of the fittest. By seeking to eliminate hierarchy and competition, Khan had weakened the Sith, making them vulnerable to the Jedi. Bane's solution was radical but effective. He destroyed the Brotherhood at the Battle of Ruusan, ensuring that the Sith could be rebuilt from the ground up according to his vision. By establishing the Rule of Two, Bane ensured that the Sith would operate in secrecy, hidden from the Jedi and the galaxy at large. This concealment allowed the Sith to bide their time, building power and influence without exposing themselves to immediate danger. One of the key reasons the Rule of Two worked was its psychological and ideological foundation. The relationship between master and apprentice was inherently adversarial, fostering an environment where strength and cunning were paramount. The master would impart knowledge and power to the apprentice, but always with the understanding that the apprentice's ultimate goal was to overthrow the master. This cycle of betrayal ensured that only the most powerful and capable individuals would rise to lead the Sith, sharpening the Order's collective power over time. Moreover, the Rule of Two capitalized on the natural tendencies of the dark side. Unlike the Jedi, who sought harmony and balance, the Sith embraced conflict and personal ambition. The Rule of Two ensured that these traits were harnessed productively, turning internal conflict into a mechanism for growth rather than destruction. In this way, the Sith became more resilient and adaptive, able to survive and thrive in a galaxy dominated by the Jedi. The Rule of Two also provided the Sith with a strategic advantage. Operating in secrecy allowed them to infiltrate the political and economic structures of the galaxy, manipulating events from the shadows. Over time, the Sith became masters of deception and subterfuge, laying the groundwork for their eventual conquest. This long-term approach required patience and discipline, qualities that the Rule of Two cultivated in its adherents. Bane's philosophy also placed a strong emphasis on legacy. By limiting the number of Sith, Bane ensured that the dark side's teachings would be concentrated and preserved. Each generation of Sith would build upon the knowledge and power of their predecessors, creating a cumulative effect that would make the Order increasingly formidable. This focus on continuity and refinement was a stark contrast to the chaotic and often self-destructive tendencies of the old Sith orders. One of the most compelling examples of the Rule of Two's success was its culmination in the rise of Darth Sidious. As both a Sith Lord and the Emperor of the Galactic Empire, Sidious epitomized the ultimate realization of Bane's vision. Through decades of careful planning and manipulation, Sidious orchestrated the fall of the Jedi and the Republic, achieving a level of power and control that no Sith had ever attained. His mastery of both the dark side and political maneuvering demonstrated the effectiveness of the Rule of Two, as it allowed the Sith to operate undetected until the moment of their triumph. The Rule of Two also instilled a sense of purpose and clarity within the Sith. Each Sith Lord knew their role within the Order and their ultimate destiny. This focus helped to eliminate the distractions and petty rivalries that had plagued the Sith in the past. By creating a clear hierarchy and a shared goal, Bane ensured that the Sith would remain united in their pursuit of power and vengeance against the Jedi. Furthermore, the rule of two allowed the Sith to adapt to changing circumstances. Unlike the rigid and hierarchical structure of the Jedi Order, the Sith under the rule of two were flexible and innovative. They could evolve their strategies and tactics as needed, always staying one step ahead of their enemies. This adaptability was a key factor in their eventual success, as it allowed them to exploit the weaknesses of their opponents and capitalize on opportunities as they arose. In conclusion, Darth Bane's rule of two was a masterstroke of Sith philosophy and strategy. By addressing the inherent flaws of the old Sith orders, Bane created a system that harnessed the dark side's chaotic nature and turned it into a source of strength. The rule of two ensured that the Sith would grow stronger with each generation, ultimately leading to their domination of the galaxy. Through secrecy, discipline, and a relentless pursuit of power, the Sith were able to achieve their long-awaited revenge against the Jedi, proving the enduring effectiveness of Bane's vision. The success of Darth Bane's rule of two lay not only in its philosophical underpinnings, but also in its practical execution. The rule of two created a clear system that balanced the inherent chaos of the dark side with the need for structure and continuity. By doing so, it avoided the self-destructive tendencies that had historically plagued the Sith and allowed them to operate with precision and purpose. This system's effectiveness becomes even more apparent when considering the broader galactic context and the nature of the Sith's ultimate goal, the destruction of the Jedi and the domination of the galaxy. A critical aspect of the rule of two was its emphasis on secrecy. Unlike the Sith of old, who often operated openly and waged large-scale wars against the Jedi, Bane's Sith worked in the shadows. This clandestine approach allowed them to avoid direct confrontation with the Jedi Order, which would have likely resulted in their swift annihilation. Instead, the Sith under the rule of two could focus on long-term strategies, infiltrating the highest levels of galactic society and manipulating events from behind the scenes. This covert approach also allowed the Sith to exploit the weaknesses of their enemies. The Jedi, bound by their strict code and commitment to peace, were ill-prepared to deal with an enemy they could not see or understand. By remaining hidden, the Sith were able to undermine the Republic and the Jedi Order without drawing attention to themselves. This strategy of indirect warfare was a cornerstone of the Sith's eventual success and a testament to the effectiveness of the rule of two. Another key element of the rule of two's success was its ability to concentrate power and knowledge. In the old Sith orders, power was often diluted among many members, leading to infighting and stagnation. The rule of two, by contrast, ensured that power was always concentrated in the hands of the most capable individuals. The master passed on their knowledge and power to the apprentice, who, once strong enough, would challenge and ultimately overthrow the master. This process of succession ensured that the Sith continually evolved, with each generation surpassing the last. This cycle of succession also fostered a culture of excellence within the Sith. Unlike the Jedi, who emphasized humility and selflessness, the Sith under the rule of two were driven by ambition and the pursuit of personal power. This competitive dynamic ensured that only the most cunning and powerful individuals could rise to the top, strengthening the order as a whole. Moreover, the relationship between master and apprentice, though adversarial, was also one of mutual benefit. The master relied on the apprentice to carry on their legacy, while the apprentice gained access to the master's knowledge and experience. The rule of two's emphasis on legacy was another critical factor in its success. Bane understood that the Sith's ultimate goal could not be achieved in a single lifetime. By creating a system that ensured the continuity of the Sith Order, he laid the groundwork for a long-term strategy that would span generations. Each Sith Lord built upon the work of their predecessor, gradually increasing the Order's power and influence. This cumulative effect was essential to the Sith's eventual triumph, as it allowed them to patiently and methodically dismantle the Jedi and the Republic. Darth Sidious, perhaps the most successful Sith Lord in history, was the ultimate product of the rule of two. His rise to power demonstrated the effectiveness of Bane's system, as he was able to outmaneuver both the Jedi and the political establishment of the Republic. Sidious's mastery of both the dark side and political manipulation allowed him to orchestrate the Clone Wars, a conflict that not only weakened the Jedi but also provided the justification for the transformation of the Republic into the Galactic Empire. The Clone Wars, in particular, exemplified the brilliance of the Rule of Two. While the Jedi were drawn into a galaxy-wide conflict, fighting a war that ultimately served the Sith's interests, Sidious and his apprentice, Darth Tyrannus, manipulated both sides from behind the scenes. This strategy allowed the Sith to weaken the Jedi and consolidate their power without revealing their true intentions. By the time the Jedi realized the extent of the Sith's plan, it was too late. The Jedi Order was decimated, and Sidious emerged as the undisputed ruler of the galaxy. The Rule of Two's success can also be attributed to its adaptability. The Sith under Bane's system were not bound by rigid doctrines or dogma. Instead, they were free to adapt their strategies and tactics to suit the changing circumstances of the galaxy. This flexibility allowed the Sith to stay ahead of their enemies and exploit new opportunities as they arose. For example, Sidious's use of the Clone Wars to achieve his goals demonstrated the Sith's ability to adapt to the political and military landscape of the time. Additionally, the Rule of Two ensured that the Sith remained focused on their ultimate goal, the destruction of the Jedi and the domination of the galaxy. By limiting the number of Sith, Bane eliminated the distractions and petty rivalries that had plagued the old Sith orders. Each Sith Lord knew their role within the Order and understood the importance of their mission. This focus helped to maintain the unity and discipline of the Sith, even as they pursued their individual ambitions. The Rule of Two also provided a framework for the Sith to refine their understanding and use of the dark side. With only 2 Sith at any given time, the knowledge and power of the dark side were concentrated and preserved. Each master passed on their teachings to their apprentice, who in turn added their own insights and experiences. This process of accumulation and refinement allowed the Sith to deepen their mastery of the dark side over time, making them increasingly formidable adversaries. In conclusion, the Rule of Two was a masterfully designed system that addressed the weaknesses of the old Sith orders and provided a clear path to power and domination. By emphasizing secrecy, concentration of power, legacy, adaptability, and focus, Bane created a philosophy that allowed the Sith to thrive and ultimately achieve their long-awaited revenge against the Jedi. The success of the Rule of Two is evident in the rise of the Galactic Empire and the near destruction of the Jedi Order, demonstrating the enduring power and effectiveness of Bane's vision. The Rule of Two's ultimate triumph lay not just in its immediate success under Darth Sidious, but in its broader implications for the Sith philosophy and the galaxy as a whole. The system didn't merely focus on the accumulation of power, it established a blueprint for manipulating entire civilizations and institutions without ever revealing the true source of control. It was this subtlety that allowed the Sith to achieve their ultimate goal, the complete destruction of the Jedi Order and the establishment of Sith dominion over the galaxy. What made the Rule of Two so compelling was its perfect alignment with the core principles of the dark side. The dark side thrives on conflict, ambition, and the pursuit of power. Under the old Sith system, these traits often led to chaotic infighting, where individual Sith lords would betray and destroy each other for personal gain. While this chaos was a natural expression of the dark side, it ultimately weakened the Sith as a collective force, preventing them from mounting a unified challenge to the Jedi. The Rule of Two transformed this inherent conflict into a controlled mechanism for growth. The master and apprentice dynamic ensured that the drive for power and supremacy was channeled into a productive cycle. The master would teach the apprentice, imparting the knowledge and power necessary to eventually challenge and overthrow them. The apprentice, in turn, would strive to surpass the master, pushing themselves to their limits and honing their abilities. This system ensured that the Sith continually evolved, with each generation becoming more powerful than the last. The Rule of Two also introduced a psychological dimension to the Sith's rise. The constant tension between master and apprentice created an environment of vigilance and preparedness. The master could never afford to grow complacent, knowing that their apprentice was always seeking an opportunity to usurp them. Similarly, the apprentice had to be cunning and patient, biding their time until they were ready to strike. This dynamic fostered a level of discipline and strategic thinking that was absent in the old Sith orders. Moreover, the rule of two capitalized on the inherent strengths of the dark side. Unlike the Jedi, who relied on collective harmony and cooperation, the Sith embraced individual ambition and personal empowerment. By limiting the number of Sith, Bane ensured that these traits were not diluted by internal rivalries and factions. Instead, the Sith could focus their energies on external targets: the Jedi, the Republic, and the galaxy itself. This focused aggression was a key factor in the Sith's eventual success. By working in the shadows and striking at opportune moments, the Sith were able to dismantle the Jedi and the Republic piece by piece. The Clone Wars, for example, was a masterstroke of Sith manipulation. Sidious, as both the Sith Lord and the Supreme Chancellor, orchestrated a conflict that weakened the Jedi, sowed distrust in the Republic, and paved the way for the rise of the Empire. Every step of this plan was a direct result of the principles laid out by the rule of two: patience, secrecy, and strategic use of power. Another important aspect of the rule of two was its adaptability. While the Sith adhered to the principle of two, they were not bound by rigid doctrines or rituals. This flexibility allowed them to adjust their methods and strategies as needed. For instance, while Sidious adhered to the rule of two in spirit, he also employed a network of dark side agents, such as Count Dooku, General Grievous, and the Inquisitors, to achieve his goals. These agents served the Sith's interests without violating the core tenet of the rule of two, demonstrating the system's ability to evolve and adapt. The rule of two also fostered a sense of long-term vision that was crucial to the Sith's success. Bane understood that the destruction of the Jedi and the conquest of the galaxy could not be achieved in a single lifetime. By creating a system that prioritized continuity and legacy, he ensured that the Sith would remain focused on their ultimate goal, even as individual masters and apprentices came and went. Each Sith Lord contributed to this grand plan, building upon the foundation laid by their predecessors. This long-term perspective was a stark contrast to the Jedi, who often focused on immediate threats and the maintenance of peace and stability. The Jedi's reactive nature left them vulnerable to the Sith's patient and methodical approach. By the time the Jedi realized the full extent of the Sith's plan, it was too late. The Sith had already infiltrated the highest levels of galactic power and set in motion a chain of events that would lead to their ultimate victory. The success of the rule of two was not limited to its strategic and philosophical aspects. It also had a profound impact on the Sith's understanding of the dark side. With only two Sith at any given time, the Master could focus their full attention on training their apprentice. This intensive mentorship allowed for a deeper and more nuanced exploration of the dark side, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Each generation of Sith expanded upon the knowledge and techniques of their predecessors, leading to a cumulative increase in power and mastery. This concentration of knowledge and power was evident in the abilities of Sith Lords like Sidious, who demonstrated an unparalleled mastery of the dark side. From his ability to manipulate the political landscape of the galaxy to his command of devastating force powers, Sidious epitomized the ultimate realization of the rule of two. His rise to power was not just a personal triumph, but the culmination of centuries of Sith evolution under Bane's system. The rule of two also ensured the preservation of the Sith's core identity. By operating in secrecy and maintaining a strict hierarchy, the Sith were able to avoid the pitfalls of corruption and dilution that had plagued them in the past. Each Sith Lord understood their place within the Order and their role in the grand plan. This clarity of purpose helped to maintain the Sith's focus and cohesion, even as they pursued their individual ambitions. In conclusion, the rule of two was a revolutionary system that addressed the fundamental weaknesses of the old Sith orders and provided a clear path to power and domination. By harnessing the dark side's chaotic nature and channeling it into a productive cycle, Bane created a philosophy that ensured the Sith's survival and eventual triumph. The success of the rule of two is evident in the rise of the Galactic Empire and the near destruction of the Jedi Order, proving the enduring power and effectiveness of Bane's vision. The enduring success of the rule of two lies in its foundational principle, a perpetual refinement of power and philosophy. Darth Bane's vision established a self-sustaining cycle, where the Sith evolved across generations by embodying and enhancing the core tenets of the dark side. This cycle not only prevented the Sith from repeating the mistakes of their chaotic past, but also allowed them to thrive in a galaxy dominated by the Jedi, patiently awaiting the right moment to strike. The system's brilliance was in how it ensured that the Sith would never again fall victim to their own internal weaknesses. By reducing their number to 2, Bane eradicated the infighting that had previously led to the Sith's downfall. In the old Sith empires, rival factions constantly vied for supremacy, leading to fragmented leadership and eventual collapse. The rule of 2 replaced this instability with a streamlined hierarchy, ensuring that the Sith's destructive tendencies were directed outward, towards their enemies, rather than inward. At the heart of this structure was the master-apprentice relationship, a dynamic that balanced cooperation with inevitable conflict. The master's role was to impart their knowledge and skills to the apprentice, cultivating them into a powerful Sith who could one day challenge and surpass them. The apprentice, driven by ambition and a thirst for power, would strive to become stronger than the master, culminating in inevitable confrontation. This cyclical struggle not only ensured that the Sith Order would continually improve, but also that its members were hardened by experience and conflict. This cycle of betrayal and succession was not merely a means of personal advancement, it was a mechanism for ensuring the survival and supremacy of the Sith. In the past, Sith Lords would often hoard their knowledge, fearing that their subordinates might use it against them. Under the rule of 2, however, the transmission of knowledge was a fundamental part of the system. Each master was obligated to pass on everything they knew, ensuring that their apprentice would be capable of not only continuing the Sith legacy, but also expanding upon it. This focus on legacy was crucial to the Sith's long-term strategy. Bane understood that the destruction of the Jedi and the conquest of the galaxy were objectives that could not be achieved within a single lifetime. By creating a system that prioritized continuity and gradual accumulation of power, he ensured that the Sith would remain focused on their ultimate goal across generations. Each Sith Lord contributed to this grand plan, building on the foundation laid by their predecessors and bringing the Sith closer to their ultimate victory. The rule of 2 also allowed the Sith to refine their understanding and application of the dark side. Unlike the Jedi, who operated within a rigid and dogmatic framework, the Sith were free to explore the full range of the Force's darker aspects. With only 2 Sith at any given time, the Master could focus their full attention on the apprentice, fostering a deep and comprehensive mastery of the dark side. This intensive training allowed each generation of Sith to push the boundaries of what was possible, achieving levels of power and knowledge that far surpassed their predecessors. Darth Sidious, the culmination of the rule of 2, exemplified this mastery. His rise to power was the result of centuries of accumulated Sith knowledge and strategy. Sidious's ability to manipulate the political, military, and spiritual forces of the galaxy demonstrated the effectiveness of the rule of 2's long-term vision. He was not only a master of the dark side, but also a master strategist and manipulator, using his position as Supreme Chancellor to orchestrate the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Galactic Empire. The Clone Wars, engineered by Sidious, showcased the rule of 2's brilliance in action. By playing both sides of the conflict, Sidious weakened the Jedi and sowed chaos across the galaxy, all while positioning himself as the savior who could restore order. The Jedi, unaware of the Sith's involvement, became pawns in Sidious's grand design. This manipulation of events from behind the scenes was a hallmark of the rule of 2, allowing the Sith to achieve their goals without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. Even as Sidious ruled the galaxy as Emperor, the principles of the rule of 2 remained intact. His relationship with his apprentice, Darth Vader, followed the same dynamic of mentorship and eventual confrontation. While Sidious recognized Vader's potential, he also understood the inevitability of their conflict. This understanding kept both master and apprentice on edge, ensuring that they would remain vigilant and prepared for any challenge. The rule of 2's success also lay in its ability to adapt to changing circumstances. While the core principle of 2 Sith remained constant, the methods and strategies employed by the Sith evolved over time. Bane's successors were not bound by rigid doctrines or traditions. They were free to innovate and adapt their tactics to suit the changing landscape of the galaxy. This flexibility allowed the Sith to remain relevant and effective, even as the galaxy underwent dramatic transformations. The rule of 2's adaptability was evident in Sidious's use of dark side agents and organizations, such as the Inquisitors and the Separatist movement. These entities served the Sith's interests without violating the core tenet of 2, demonstrating the system's capacity for innovation. By leveraging these additional resources, Sidious was able to extend his reach and influence far beyond what a single Sith Lord could achieve on their own. Ultimately, the rule of two proved its worth through its results. Under Bane's system, the Sith not only survived but thrived, achieving a level of power and influence that their predecessors could only dream of. The destruction of the Jedi Order and the rise of the Galactic Empire were direct outcomes of the Rule of Two's principles and strategies. This long-term vision, combined with the concentration of power and knowledge, ensured that the Sith would remain a dominant force in the galaxy for generations. In conclusion, the Rule of Two worked because it addressed the fundamental flaws of the old Sith orders while leveraging the strengths of the dark side. By limiting the number of Sith, Bane created a system that fostered continuous growth and refinement, ensuring that the Sith would become stronger with each generation. Through secrecy, patience, and adaptability, the Sith were able to outmaneuver the Jedi and achieve their ultimate goal: dominion over the galaxy. The enduring legacy of the Rule of Two is a testament to its effectiveness, proving that Bane's vision was not only revolutionary but also unstoppable.